Hello everyone and welcome back to TowerGate. It is TowerGate Day 526. 526 days of the coup that we've been following. August the 20th, 2018, Tuesday. Thank you so much for tuning in. Huge amount of news today. I'll try to get to everything. I've got to talk fast, which means you have to listen fast. A lot of information today. First of all, there was one question in the comments section. I don't have time to elaborate on it today, but just so I did answer your question, I can't remember who asked it, but I mentioned yesterday about Trump setting up a presidential commission. I've talked about this a couple of weeks ago when I was kind of on that kick, and I still am. Is it the best thing Trump could do to resolve the situation and uncover the coup d'etat is to set up a presidential commission. Many presidential commissions have been set up over the years. Probably the three most recent and most well-known would be, of course, the 9/11 Commission, the Tower Commission, and the Warren Commission. Now, I know what you're thinking. Yeah, those were all cover-ups. Yes, generally speaking, that's the purpose of a presidential commission, is to cover up crimes of the deep state. But if you have an honest president who actually appoints a special presidential commission to get to the truth, then it can work very effectively in that way as well. And the best thing about a presidential commission is that it's open. It's pretty much open to the public. The hearings are open and all that sort of thing. So this is what needs to happen in this particular case, is to counter the media narrative that they're not telling the story of the real crimes that were committed. They're focusing on the fake news. And so the presidential commission would put to the forefront and bring it into the attention of the public. It would get it out there, and we could begin asking the real questions to the real people who are involved in the real crimes. So this is why I support a presidential commission. Now, unlike most presidential commissions, where you have a bunch of insiders who are deep staters, no. I would say in this presidential commission, I would appoint a citizen panel, a panel of citizens. I would assign to them some investigators who could assist them. They would, of course, have to go through a background check, get the security clearances to look at the classified information they'd be viewing, but certainly that's exactly what I would recommend as a presidential commission, with the president appointing citizens. And, of course, he would appoint as well some professional people, investigators and others, to help them weave their way through the legal jargon and all that other stuff, and to help them understand the types of information that we're looking at in that type of thing. Then when it's all said and done, they put out their report. They give it to the president, and then he can refer, if he would like, to the attorney general that prosecutions be made based upon the findings in the report. And we would hope at that point it wouldn't be Attorney General Sessions. Okay, that's my thoughts on the Presidential Commission. I did a couple videos on it a while back, and I went into more detail, but too much news to cover to rehash that completely. But that's the basic idea that I'm talking about when I talk about a Presidential Commission. The mystery of George Papadopoulos continues to build and grow. We all know there's a lot more going on with Papadopoulos than what we know. Recently, Papadopoulos tweeted out, "TikTok." This just a half an hour before his wife posted an image of herself on social media wearing a MAGA hat. So his wife posts a pic of her wearing a MAGA hat, and a half an hour later, Papadopoulos tweets out TikTok. What's going on with the Papadopouloses? What have they got up their sleeve? We know he's filed for discovery. His wife's out there saying she thinks that he should withdraw his guilty plea. What are they looking for in this discovery? And what is going on with Papadopoulos? Well, let's go through some information and see if we can maybe figure out, or at least ways take a wild guess at what may be going on here. First, I want to refer to a link that was left by the lovely and talented Tatiana. If you go to TowerGate Day 525 and look at Tatiana's posts, It's a kind of a long post, but if you scroll down to the bottom of her post, read down to the bottom, she provides a link to a story in The Atlantic. And here's what we learned from that story in The Atlantic, thanks to Tatiana. We learn that Mueller, Uncle Bob the Executioner's team, interviewed Stephen Rowe. Stephen Rowe is the friend and business partner of Mr. Mifsud. And he is the co-author of this book that's supposed to be released next month called Faking of Russiagate. We also learn from the story in The Atlantic that Mr. Rowe, Stephen Rowe, co-owns Link University, where they train spies, where Mr. Misfit was a lecturer for years. We also learn from this article that Rowe and Pastor are going to say in the book that both Papadopoulos and Misfit are Western intelligence assets and or operatives. We're going to learn that Papadopoulos, in the book, they're going to claim that Papadopoulos was planted in the Trump campaign by the FBI to bring Trump into contact with Russian government officials. Now, Papadopoulos' wife denies this. Misfit says that Papadopoulos set him up and was an agent provocateur. Ha 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 ha. Just the opposite of what everyone thinks. Misfit says he went into hiding after the head of the Italian Secret Services contacted the president of Link University, Vincenzo Scotti, and recommended Misfit disappear. Why? Why would they care? This was Misfit's problem. Why would the head of the Italian Secret Services, high up kind of security or intelligence of the Italian government, be worried or care about the affairs of Mr. Misfit? The Italian government had no role to play in the dossier or anything else. Papadopoulos is from Greece. He was born or lives in Chicago. Well, I mean, born in Chicago. I think he was born in Greece, but he lives in Chicago. He's part of the Trump campaign, maybe an informant for the FBI, a plant, an agent provocateur. What would the Italian government, why would they be interested? Did they hear something in the wind and decide that, they were trying to help him? When they said make him disappear, what did they mean by that? Go into hiding, or you mean like Clinton body count disappear? Very interesting questions to probe, don't you think? We also learned that Papadopoulos' wife, Miss Mangiante, says that she and her husband, Papadopoulos, were approached by several suspicious characters in 2016 and 2017. These are some of the things that we're going to be in the book. Well, when Misfit says that Papadopoulos was planted in the Trump campaign by the FBI to bring Trump into contact with Russian government officials, there's a lot of evidence to support that. I mean, how many damn messages did Papadopoulos send to people in the Trump campaign trying to get them to agree to meetings with Russians? And look how hard he worked using Mr. Misfit to get to Mr. Timoviv, to get to other people, to try to get meetings set up. And we know that Papadopoulos had spoken to or had contact with every single person who's listed as a source in the dossier. He's a man of mystery, and I don't think we have the truth yet. But let's dig a little bit deeper, shall we? Chuck Ross of the Daily Caller. A man named Charles Tawil, Tawil, gave Papadopoulos $10,000 during a meeting in an Israeli hotel in July of 2017. Papadopoulos gave the money to an attorney in Greece before traveling back to the U.S. Papadopoulos was arrested at Dulles International Airport on July 27th, 2017. Question: was this $10,000, was this payment part of a sting operation by the FBI against Papadopoulos? He thinks so. His wife thinks so. If Papadopoulos had carried the 10,000 smackaroos back to the U.S. without declaring it, the FBI would have nailed him on a treasury violation, a felony. Now, this money was apparently given to Papadopoulos as a way to facilitate a business deal involving an oil and gas project in the Mediterranean. So, what's being alleged here is that the FBI was trying to set up Papadopoulos, and they did so by using this Israeli spy who was going to give and did give Papadopoulos 10 grand. The hope was on the part of Uncle Bob and the executioner and the Hillary donor posse is that Papadopoulos would take the 10 grand and travel back to the U.S., to the United States, without declaring the money, in which case they were waiting for him right there at Dulles International. What they were hoping to find on him was the 10 grand. But he didn't come with the 10 grand. He gave it to an attorney before he left Greece. So when they got to the airport, got Papadopoulos, and took him in, they were probably hoping to find the 10 grand, but it wasn't there. That's why they probably had to keep him overnight and work him over on some other things, because their plot failed. So they had to go to plan B. And that's why they now have a mess on their hands. Papadopoulos is thinking, along with his wife, that Israeli person who gave Papadopoulos money to apparently put in motion this oil and gas deal in the Mediterranean, I guess they were looking at Papadopoulos as if he's some sort of a consultant. Here's 10 grand. You know the people to talk to. Take this 10 grand, pocket the money as a consultant's fee, and make this stuff happen. Is kind of what it looks like. But Papadopoulos and others feel now that this Israeli who gave him the money to set up this so-called business deal was actually a spy. An Israeli spy, maybe working for Mueller, the U.S. government, or who knows who, the CIA, I don't know. But some sort of a spy working for the Israeli and the U.S. government, working together to plant the 10 grand on Papadopoulos, so he would be found with it at the airport, and he would be busted for a treasury violation, a felony, in which case they could use that against him to get him to turn against Trump and threaten him with a lot of jail time and fines if he didn't play ball and start dishing out some dirt on Trump and give them evidence of Trump-Russia collusion. This is what the narrative appears to be at this time. This appears to be what Papadopoulos and his wife are talking about. Some other people are thinking about. And so maybe that's what Papadopoulos is talking about when he says tick-tock. It's kind of a cryptic message. So the plot continues to thicken with Papadopoulos. I don't know if this makes things clearer or more cloudy, but it's just more evidence that there's a lot of bad mojo going on around Papadopoulos and this wife of his who has her own background issues with Mr. Misfit and others. It's hard to know who played who. I mean, it really is hard to know who played who. Did Misfit play Pops, or did Pops play Misfit? Was the government playing Pops, or were they playing Misfit? Was these people connected to Link University, were they playing Pops, or were they playing Misfit? Were they playing the U.S. government? Was the U.S. government playing them? Who the hell was playing who in this sordid tale? It's hard to unravel. I mean, you could make a case, you could make a strong case both ways for both Misfit and Papadopoulos. And it's hard to know, because when you get these people that are connected to intelligence and working as assets for intelligence agencies, I mean, they're playing the role. And the setups are laid out there, and they appear to be what you see them, you say, okay, is this what they appear to be, or is it something else? It's really hard to know. It's smoke and mirrors. It's hard to know until you get to the bottom of it, and then you can go back in retrospect and you can begin to piece together what really did happen. But at this time, we just simply have to continue to look at it as just more pieces missing from a puzzle. The more, it's like a puzzle that you're trying to complete, but every day, pieces that you have in the puzzle that appear to be in the correct place, appear to be the correct piece of the puzzle, appear to be incorrect. You have to start taking pieces out of the puzzle and thinking, I guess they don't belong here anyway. Maybe this piece belongs over here. Who knows? It's a big fat mystery, isn't it? Let's continue. Anastasia Vashukovich. Anastasia Vashukovich. Does that name ring a bell? Let me see if I can jog your memory. A while back, we had this crazy story that popped up that was being essentially developed by CNN, which is why no one gave it much credibility. This story was about some Russian prostitute that had been arrested in Thailand, and she was claiming that she had evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, and she wanted the American authorities to get her out of jail, and if they would, she would come to the U.S. and testify about what she knew about Trump-Russia collusion. So, CNN learns about this, and they send a reporter over there to interview her, but she's in jail. So they get very little from her. And the story eventually just kind of peeled away and died. And eventually she had nothing more to say. She clammed up. And then, poof, she's gone. We don't know where she is. So let's dig into this story a little bit about Anastasia Vashukovich. She was a Russian prostitute that made headline news when she claimed to have evidence of Russia's interference in the 2016 election. CNN went to Thailand to interview her, where she had been arrested for attempting to recruit prostitutes. The story turned out to be a massive and epic fail. But now we know what Vashukovich was peddling and what she was doing. Vashukovich was promoting or leveraging recordings of Oleg Deripaska. But at Deripaska's request, she returned the recordings to him. She told this to the AP, the Associated Press, today. Vashukovich says that she provided escort services to Deripaska. Vashukovich says she promised Deripaska she would not talk about this anymore, and Deripaska promised her something in return for keeping quiet. Question: was Deripaska Steele's Russian source in the dossier about the PP-Gate story? Was Deripaska Steele's Russian source in the dossier about the PP-Gate story? Another question: did Vashukovich have a recording of Deripaska talking to Steele about Trump or Manafort or Russian prostitutes? There is a photo of Deripaska and Vashukovich on Deripaska's yacht in October of 2017. So basically what it looks like here is that Deripaska had a business venture going with Vashukovich. The business venture was that she was going to go to Thailand and other places, I guess, around the world, and she was going to set up a program, a school, an educational service, whatever you want to call it, that would teach prostitutes how to marry billionaires or meet rich, very rich men. this course was going to teach them how to make the connections, how to get themselves in the inner circles, how to be able to associate with these people, how to act, how to behave, what to say, who to link with, and all these sorts of things. Basically, teaching these prostitutes how they could get connected to a oligarch like Deripaska, or a very rich man, whether he be American or European or whatever, just how prostitutes could get themselves into the lives of very rich men, which could ultimately result in them getting lots and lots of money, possibly meeting a rich husband, possibly a rich boyfriend who would just, take care of them or give them lots of money to perform various services and other things. So apparently this was a business venture between Deripaska and Vashukovich. So apparently she was over in Thailand doing this, trying to recruit these women, and they believed that she was trying to recruit prostitutes. As it turns out, the women she was dealing with were already prostitutes. She was trying to teach them how to get into the good graces of very wealthy men so that they could suck them cash off of them. That was basically the bottom line of it. But the Thai government thought she was able to recruit prostitutes, so they arrested her. So now she's in jail. And she didn't like being in jail, so she, I guess, didn't feel like Mr. Deripaska or anyone was coming to her aid to get her out of jail or to help her out, so she decided to use a little leverage, and that was to contact someone in the international media and say, hey, I have got information about Trump-Russia collusion, and if you'll get me out of jail, I will come to America and tell you all about it. This, of course, got the attention of Deripaska, and he said, uh-oh, she's talking all kind of crazy stuff. I better go deal with this. And so apparently he went and got her to shut up by promising her something, and also by having her turn over whatever tape or tapes that she had in her possession, which may have been incriminating to Deripaska. And again, some people speculate there may have been conversations on there with Steele, or maybe someone else, maybe Mr. Waldman, and maybe there was something there that would prove evidence that he was the one who was giving Steele the PP-Gate story. This is the type of speculation that's going on out there. But obviously something happened here. She got arrested. She decided to use what she had as leverage. Deripaska responded in order to shut her up. He got the tape back from her, got her to promise not to say anything, to stop promising to come to the U.S. to testify, and he gave her something that got her to shut up. My guess is money. And he probably got a good lawyer to get her out of the Thai jail. Probably got her out of jail and then paid her off to shut her up and to get his tape or tapes back. That appears to be what's going on. Because now she has nothing to say and you can't find her. She's Belarusian, by the way. And I believe he is as well. I don't know. I don't know if he's Russian or Belarusian. But anyway, that just another crazy story that's all around this crazy conspiracy. Alrighty, let's move on. Mr. Potato Head was on Rachel Madcow, and Madcow asked Mr. Potato Head what would amount to an American being part of a conspiracy. Listen to John Brennan, Mr. Potato Head, listen to his response to Madcow's question about what would amount to an American being part of a conspiracy. Brennan said, quote, someone who knowingly supports the efforts of a foreign government to interfere in the U.S. domestic politics, and especially an election. And so, any American who was working with Russians or working with intermediaries who were working with Russians, and those Americans who knowingly tried to collude, conspire, and to work with them in order to advance their political objectives here in the States would rise to the level of a conspiracy. One more time, Brennan's response. Someone who knowingly supports the efforts of a foreign government to interfere in the U.S. domestic politics, and especially an election. And so, any American who was working with Russians or working with intermediaries who were working with Russians, and those Americans who knowingly tried to collude, conspire, and work with them in order to advance their political objectives here in the States would rise to the level of a conspiracy. Oh my God. Did Mr. Potato Head just outline the criminal conspiracy of the FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA? Did he just outline the criminal conspiracy of the FBI, the DOJ, and the CIA? Or how about Mark Warner? Remember Mark Warner, who got pranked by that East European radio guy who called Mark Warner claiming to have information about naked Trump, pictures of the naked Trump, and Mark Warner's trying to get the pictures of the naked Trump, and it all turned out to be a big joke? Or was it Mark Warner? Was it Mark Warner colluding and conspiring and to work with a foreigner in order to advance the political objectives here in the States? Sure sounds like it. But Brennan basically just laid out the case against Christopher Steele, Bruce Orr, Sally Yates, Deripaska, Andrew McCabe, Peter's been stroking us, Glenn Simpson, Christopher Steele, of course, the rotten Reverend Clinton, James Comey, of course, and Brennan himself. They all meet this definition laid out by Mr. Potato Head. One more time. Someone who knowingly supports the efforts of a foreign government to interfere in U.S. politics, domestic politics, and especially an election. And so, any American who was working with Russians or working with intermediaries who were working with Russians, and those Americans who knowingly tried to collude, conspire, and to work with them in order to advance their political objectives here in the States would rise to the level of a conspiracy. Who was working with the Russians? Christopher Steele, Mr. Waldman, Mark Warner, Mr. Burr, James Comey, the FBI, the DOJ, the CIA, or working with intermediaries who are working with Russians, all of the above, and those Americans who knowingly tried to collude, conspire, and to work with them in order to advance their political objectives here in the States, all of the above. Steele, Orr, Deripaska, McCabe, Strzok, Comey, Yates, Simpson, Steele, the rotten Reverend Clinton, Brennan himself. Basically the entire FBI, DOJ, the entire top tier, top level of the Obama administration. And his FBI, DOJ, and CIA. Along with, let's not forget, the media. Oh yes. Oh yes. You know, a lot of people, why does the media want to cover the story? Why is CNN and MSNBC and ABC and CBS and PBS and blah, 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 blah. Why does all these, why won't they cover this story? It's the biggest political scandal in American history. It's the biggest story ever. How could any of these reporters not want to cover the story? What's wrong with them? Are they that politically biased? Well, I don't know about all that. But I do know one thing. One reason they might not want to cover the story is because they are part of the criminal conspiracy. Now, they could go to court and say, "Well, we're the media, we're the press, we have First Amendment rights, we are the fourth rail. That's our job. Our job. We have the right to receive classified information and publish it." Because we're the press. Well, yes, you do have the right as a journalist, as a media organization, as does anyone. You see, I am a journalist too. I'm a media person too. Just because I don't have a $1 billion budget and a TV studio and a makeup artist and a hair artist and this and that and the other thing doesn't mean I'm not a reporter, a journalist, or a commentator or whatever. I have every bit as much legitimacy as they do, if not more. At least I try to tell the truth. If I make a mistake, I admit it. But they know that there's much more to this. The media. You see, yeah, it's okay. They can get leaks and they can write stories based on leaks that they know are classified leaks, classified information. Yeah, they can do that. They're the press. But here's the thing. What they can't do is be part of a conspiracy that's designed, if they knowingly got that classified information or unclassified information, and they were participating knowingly, participating in publishing information for the purpose of being part of influencing or rigging, affecting an American election, then that would make them part of the crime, the larger conspiracy. Yes, the media has a right to publish information, classified, unclassified. They have a right to reveal sources or not reveal sources. They can hide their sources. That's all great. That's all fine. The media's all good there. There's no problem there. They break no crime. They commit no crime. But it's the context, why they were doing it. If in fact they were knowingly getting this information, putting it out there and running it for the purpose not of informing the public, but rather to be part of a conspiracy to help one political party or candidate to defeat another, and that they were an active part of the conspiracy, that would not be protected under the First Amendment or under any rules of journalism. That would in fact make them part of the crime, part of the criminal conspiracy. That's why they don't want to cover the story, because they are in fact guilty of being part of a mass criminal conspiracy to affect the outcome of a presidential election. They're guilty. All the evidence says so. That's why they don't want to cover the story, and will continue to do everything they can to discredit me, you, and anyone else who tries to get to the truth. The truth to the media and to the deep state and people like Mr. Potato Head and all the rest. It's like light on a vampire. We are the light. They are the darkness. And when we shine the light on them, we expose them. We expose their darkness, their criminality, and their evil. That's why the media cannot, will not, ever cover this story. They're a part of the criminal conspiracy. Trump's tweets do not stop every day. He's ramping it up every day. Today he tweets out, he wants to know why Sessions hasn't fired Bruce Orr yet. Well, I mean, I think the main reason is because they want to make sure that they can question him. Maybe Inspector General Huckleberry Horowitz may have wanted to keep him around so they could force him to answer questions. That'd be my only guess. But now that we know what we know, I'm surprised Sessions hasn't fired him. But Sessions has got a lot of people scratching their head. And yes, I know there's plenty of people on this channel who believe that, Trump and Sessions and Huber and the whole nine yards are actually doing a real investigation, and they're just keeping it very quiet, and they're playing the role. And if that happens to be true, I'll be the happiest person in the world, and I'll congratulate all of you who were smarter than all the rest of us in seeing that. And yes, I will suggest that both Trump and Sessions should win Academy Awards. Absolutely, it will be the greatest performance in the history of not just theater, but political theater. It will be extraordinary, and I hope it happens. I'll laugh right along with you. I'll laugh at how hard I got duped. I'll be rolling on the floor laughing and apologizing for getting it so wrong, and congratulating all of you, Miss Tree, who got it all right. Trump also tweeted out that Sessions is a total disgrace who refuses to do his job. Today was day 3 of the deliberations in the Manafort trial. No decision yet. I have to think that this plays in Manafort's favor. 18 counts against him. I don't know if he'll get off all these counts, but I bet for a lot of this stuff it's just too difficult to unravel it all. They simply don't understand it. And I think we could be looking at a hung jury. Venezuela's currency is now inflated at 1 million %. 1 million %. Well, how do you end up having your currency inflated at 1 million %? Well, my guess is Mr. Maduro probably is a graduate of the Ocasio-Cortez School of Economics. He graduated from the Ocasio-Cortez School of Economics. Chelsea Clinton is planning on making a political run. Ha 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 ha. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'll be back tomorrow with more TowerGate. Thank you so much. Bye.